welcome to the Don Har Business Connect show. We have a special guest today, Opposition Housing spokesman Phil Twyford, talking about housing and labour policies.
We've got to increase the supply of housing. We've got to rein in the demand pressures that the national government refuses to do anything about.
And Rod Gabb from Gabb & Associate, who will talk about how you can get your business running better.
Our fees are paid out of the savings that we've generated for you. So it hasn't cost you. It hasn't cost your bottom line.
Plus our very own project marketing manager, Steve Stark, talking on all things real estate.
It's about engaging the buyers on the ground, and the vendor can see and the buyers can see that we feel it and we're into it and they buy.
All this and some great projects on the Don Har Business Connect show. Projects on offer. This week we have a very special project coming up right on Gillies Ave in Newmarket. It is number 3941 Gillies Ave. So when you go on the Gillies Ave on-ramp towards the city, you just go under the bridge. Immediately after that is number 3941. Believe it or not, there is a Ramada Hotel getting built right there, and next to it is a residential tower and another residential tower facing Gillies Ave itself. 2 minutes walk to Newmarket and 277. This project is going to hit the market within the next 30 days. We have the opportunity now to talk about it, so if you're in early, good on you. To choose the best unit and the most affordable unit, we got the hotel units pricing from 243,000 right up to 560,000, and then the one-bedroom unit starts from 675,000. Two-bedroom unit will go up from there onwards. They'll come with a car park that is extra. This project here is one of the best locations that we have and one of the largest we have in Auckland right now coming on the market. Usually when the projects as such with the hotel guarantee lease return come on the market, they usually sell within 30 days. The whole hotel development is sold out within 30 days. Already we got about 30 expression of interest, people to buy a variety of different type of investment there. The construction will propose to start June next year, and then it will be 16 months from there onwards. So if you want to buy one of these affordable units, either it's a lease with a guaranteed return or a one-bedroom unit from 675,000. Now, the great thing about this property is it's double grammar zone as well, and it's very handy to all locations, and it's like 24 months away from settlement. So you give you time to sell down your other investment that might be a bit outdated now, or maybe it's not in a good location and you always got a problem with maintenance or tenants. Well, this is a blue chip location and it's 24 months away, and deposit is only 10%. So if you pay 10% deposit, the money stays in the solicitor's trust account and you earn interest on your money. So if you got, say, 50,000 or 60,000, all you do is you transfer it onto the vendor solicitor's trust account. You still earn almost the same interest, except that you got a property. Now, when you buy property off the plan, it's all about buying growth. You know, like all investors today, they buy for growth. So you buy a property today, you have to settle today. But when you buy a brand new property, you have to settle in 2 years. You pick the right property, by the time it's settled, it'll be worth a lot more. So get in now, call our team, visit our website, or just send us an email, and we'll be happy to show you where it is. The marketing will hit very shortly. And joining me now is Phil Twyford, Labour Housing Spokesperson. Phil, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
No, you must be our first politician to come on the show, so I'm so looking forward to have the chat with you today.
Great.
Look, on the recent press, people always talk about housing crisis in Auckland and affordabilities, and what's your opinion on that right now?
Well, The Economist magazine said recently that New Zealand has some of the most unaffordable housing in the world. The Salvation Army, our most respected social agency, said that we have the worst homelessness in living memory. So we have a housing crisis, and unfortunately the current government is in denial about that. But our view is they've had their turn. They've had 9 years. It's been getting worse for every year. It's time for a fresh approach.
Well, look, I've been in real estate for 25 years, so I must say that I've seen the recent 9 years, but I've seen the current government try to promise certain housing solutions, but I myself haven't seen that happen. I see a lot of red tape, delays on consents, and And it hasn't changed. So what could you do differently if you were in power?
So we've got a big, comprehensive, bold plan for reform, and it's going to take serious political will to drive these reforms through on a number of fronts. So the first thing is we have to deal with the supply issue, and Labor's going to build 100,000 affordable homes and sell them on to first home buyers at cost, housing a whole new generation of young Kiwi families and increasing the supply of housing. You know, Auckland's got a shortfall of 40,000 homes at the moment. We're also going to reform the planning rules. You know, we don't have a shortage of land in New Zealand, but we have a highly restrictive planning system that chokes off the supply of available land for housing and drives up urban land costs. So we've got a plan to change the way that infrastructure is financed, to provide more finance for the infrastructure that you need in order to build houses.
How do you deal with the cost? Like right now, it costs, I see that the land size are going back to 100 square metre, 200, 300 now. It's the size of land in Auckland now. And to purchase one of those land now, it costs like 120, 140,000 before you get to build your house on it. How would Labour deal with that cost? Because to build a house, it costs another 300,000-400,000. So the actual cost would be like 500 to 550 around there. So you're saying Labour will provide that to the consumers at that sort of cost?
So there's three things we need to do to drive down costs. So in the land cost, it's the restrictive planning system that is making the land so expensive. So we're going to free up the planning controls while protecting the environment. The second thing is we have to be able to build more infrastructure to increase the supply of land that you can build on. So that's our infrastructure bonds plan. And the third element is the cost of building. And we're going to bust open the rorts in the building supplies market that mean that Kiwis are paying 30% more for the same building materials than the Australians are.
Yes, yes.
So if we do all those things and we invest in the workforce, so we train up more tradespeople so that the industry's bigger and stronger, more competitive, we can drive down costs. But here's the thing. At the moment, you can build affordable homes, but most developers choose not to. Because there's an imbalance of supply and demand, most developers are choosing to build 260 square metre homes and sell them for $1 million because they make more profit.
Right.
Labor and government, through our Kiwi Build policy, we're going to choose to build homes for $400,000 or $500,000 and sell them to first home buyers. High quality but modest starter homes.
How do you deal with the first home buyer? Because I work in Manukau in South Auckland. I deal with a lot of first home buyer. The problem with first home buyers, firstly, they can afford the repayments, no doubt, because they can pay rent $500-600 a week. But almost 10 out of 10 first home buyers that we meet that wants affordable homes, but their credit criteria is terrible because they have high purchase, they got defaults. Therefore, when it comes to lending, that seems to be the major issue that holds them back. How would you overcome that part? Because if you can overcome that part, I believe you can achieve your goal.
Well, there are a number of things that we can do to make it easier for first-home buyers, but the big thing is that we have to tackle the kind of structural supply and demand factors. We've got to increase the supply of housing. We've got to rein in the demand pressures that the national government refuses to do anything about. When we do those things, the price of housing will come down and it will be more affordable for first-home buyers. We don't want to make... one of the things you can do is you can provide more subsidies to help first-home buyers get their deposit together, and the national government has done that. But what that does is it actually drives prices even higher. So it's not tackling the root causes of the problem.
How would you speed up the council process? Because it's still, the new leadership here came in, council say they've got to speed the process up. I personally haven't seen anything speed up at all. No. It still takes the same amount of time to get a consent, to get a building permit, to get resource consent. I myself managing quite a few projects now, it's still 15 months. I still haven't got the answer. How would you change that?
It's not good enough, and under the Resource Management Act, Labor will use what's called a national policy statement, where central government tells the council they have to change their plan, do things differently. They've got to get rid of the urban growth boundary. They've got to allow the city to grow up, provide more apartments and townhouses and so on, and change the way they do their consenting and planning decisions to allow the city to grow. At the moment, we have a planning system that stops the city from growing, and all that does is that it drives house prices up.
You know, I've been to Singapore recently, and I was so inspired by their housing policy. Their aim is to have every Singaporean to own a property, and what they do is they provide a $50,000 deposit grant for you to buy your first. They only build apartments, they don't build houses because they haven't got enough land. And I was quite inspired by what I see there, because, you know, like a few acres of land can put up like 3,000-4,000 apartments. You 30,000 a year, they give you 50,000, and you can't buy a second home until you pay off the first one, and you've got to sell the first one to buy the second one. I thought, if any government can do that here in New Zealand, wouldn't that change the outcome of it?
There's no doubt Singapore should be a source of inspiration for us. You know, some people think that the problems that we have in New Zealand now are problems of success. This is what National would like us to believe. All cities have these problems. That's not true. There are many countries around the world who have fixed these problems. Singapore's one of them. They've reined in the pressures of foreign money coming into their real estate market. They have quietened down the speculative pressures through tax and other measures. And, as you say, they've had a massive government-backed building program designed to help young families into their first homes. They've been very successful.
The national government, Bill English mentioned the other day that their surplus is like 1.5 billion, was it?
That's right.
What would you do with that money if Labour was in government? Would you distribute some of that to the first home buyer deposit grant?
We're, I think, more likely to invest the surpluses in paying down the debt, investing in the superannuation fund for future generations, and investing in things like education. We don't want to increase the level of homeowner subsidies, because if we do that, the risk in the current market, you'll just drive prices even higher.
Right.
What we want to do is tax speculators, shut foreign buyers out of the market, to rein in those demand pressures, and then on the other hand have a massive government-backed building program, like Singapore has, to increase the supply. If we do those things, we'll get the market back into balance, prices will become much more affordable, and I think people will be a lot happier.
Do you think we are ready for a change?
You know, Nationals had their turn. They've been denying there's a housing crisis for the last 9 years. It's time we had some fresh thinking, and I think Andrew Little, Jacinda Ardern and Labour's housing policies are exactly what the country's looking for.
What do you think Andrew Labour's recent housing policy about clamping on property speculators and get rid of negative gearing, save $150 million and giving it back to first home buy or fit out warm housing? But $150 million can go just in 24 hours, so that wouldn't fit out many houses at all.
So the savings we're going to make from closing the tax loophole that currently allows property investors to make a loss on a building and pay less tax, the saving on that will be about $150 million a year once the policy is fully implemented. So over 10 years, that will generate $1.2 billion. That will allow us to insulate and retrofit 600,000 houses over that 10-year period.
Well, Phil, I'm so inspired of your message this morning. I want to thank you for coming on the show, and I wish the Labour government all the best for the come-up election.
Well, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Property of the week. This week we've got a real good one. It is number 22 Airfield Road, Takanini, 1,057 square metre. This is a sort of like an abandoned project someone can't finish. They went all through the hard work getting the resource consent, right to getting building permit for 3 houses, 2-level, 3 houses. They have disconnected the power of the home now, so the existing home there is ready to be removed off the site. If you're a builder or you're looking for an investment that you don't want to do later, well, you can reconnect power to the house again and rent it out. Or if you're a builder that can't wait for resource consent, can't wait for building permit, and you want to keep your staff on the payroll and you want to make some money, you can buy this property and immediately you can start construction straight away because all the hard work is already done. Now, here's the other part. The price is quite amazing, $1,150,000 inclusive of GST. Well, you're buying an average 3-bedroom home now in Auckland for around $900,000. You're buying 3 potential brand new homes. You just got to build them, and it's for $1,150,000. And if you even have to rent it out by getting an existing home up and running and build these homes later, it is a great investment. And we only got one of this type for sale and it is on the market. So give us a call and we'll be happy to send you the info pack. And joining me now is Rod Gabb from Gabb and Associate Limited. Rod, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Don. Great to be here.
Rod, we know each other for quite some time now, almost long as my whole career since 1994. And during that period, we see a lot of changes, but most of all, your business is really specialized in debt reducing and cost reducing. Can you tell us what you actually do?
Thanks, Don. Great to be here. Basically, what we do at Gabb Associates is we're appointed by many different organisations to help them reduce their overheads, to reduce their costs. And so we come in and negotiate better supply lines, often with their incumbent providers, but normally with a much better result for the client.
So Rod, if you save the client money, then what does it actually cost the client at the time? Because initially the review is no cost, but once you find, say you save $50,000 for the client because the annual bill is too high, then what do they pay you for your service?
Good question, Don. What we tend to do is we come to an agreement at the outset of our reviews that says that we will only share in the fruits, the savings of the first year.
Right.
Our competitor, and that's a key point of difference with Gabb Associates, is that we base our fees on the first year savings,
right,
not as many of our competitors do on the annual savings of each year of those contracts that have been put in place. And we have a very competitive offering, and depending on the size of organisation and depending on the number of categories, it runs anywhere between sort of 36 and 48% of those first year savings.
Okay.
So that's it. But the key thing is, if we don't save your money, it's a zero charge. But if we do charge you money, we save your fees, we do share in the fruits of those first year savings.
The hardest thing for any business is to pay money for your service. But if you save the money, well, why wouldn't they pay for your service?
Exactly. It's a good question and it's a good statement, because the thing is, our fees are paid out of the savings that we've generated for you. So it hasn't cost you. It hasn't cost your bottom line. If, for example, we're going to save you $50,000 per annum over one or two categories, so over 3 years, it's 150 grand. If we're sharing the fruit of the first year and say it's 45% or 40%, so it's easy to calculate,
right,
it's a $20,000 fee.
I'm in profit second and third year.
You're $130,000 in the profit for the next 2.5 years.
Can you give some example how much you actually save certain companies, certain clients?
Well, we've just done 2 major electricity reviews in recent months, and we've saved our clients over 16%.
Wow.
On the electricity bill. And we're talking about bills that, $100,000 plus annual spend.
So that's 100,000. That's great profit for a bottom line, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's a good. The annual spend is 100,000 plus, so the savings at 16%. One client we saved, I think it was upwards of $80,000 in annual spend. Well, if you think about that, if we're working away at your bottom line for you and reducing costs, you're focusing on the top line. If you've got a 20% margin, that means you're having to sell an extra $400,000 of products to deliver an $80,000 saving that we can get in the cost line.
So you have clients, supplies like fuel, stationery, power,
photocopiers, office cleaning, all the overheads that go into run a business. 90% plus of the time we get a positive result for our clients. 65% of the time our clients actually stay with their incumbent providers.
Right.
And our clients reserve the right, if we come back with a proposal that there's a better option with another supplier, it's our clients that will choose whether or not they want to change the supplier or not, so they're not compelled to.
Well, I thought that when our company, I thought that we were the sharpest negotiators, but when you come along and you manage to save us like 45,000, we're like, how can this happen? How did we get it wrong? But it's because we only deal with one supplier that you see, where you deal with all suppliers. And I guess you must have some sort of negotiation, because that supplier knows that you represent so many clients. Therefore, it's almost like a group buy, isn't it? So going through you.
Exactly. It's an aggregation. It's an aggregation of spend. So if we know we're dealing with 20 or 30 electricity reviews over in a quarterly period, we know that our providers, the electricity providers, know that we're not just turning up to talk about 1 metre that might be requiring 10,000 kilowatts. We're going in there talking generally that are wanting hundreds of thousands up to millions of kilowatts. So all of a sudden, through that aggregation, your negotiation and position is generally a lot stronger when you're negotiating with the various suppliers.
And especially on today's market where cash flow is changing, a lot of people will want to reduce costs.
We're finding that a lot at the present time, that people are wanting to cut out the excess cost in their business, and that's we love helping people.
And how long does that take process for you from the time you review the client situation? When do you get them a result?
We can normally get a result within 1 to 2 months.
Right.
And often it'll be less of that, depending on
Yes.
the number of categories, how many sites that you've got, because a lot of our clients are multinationals, as well as small entities as well. So just depending on the size of the entity, how many locations you've got, how many current suppliers you have in that category, you'd be surprised on the amount of organisations that have multiple suppliers across various categories within their business. And by doing that, you're missing out on the aggregation of having
Yes.
all your supply with one key supply partner.
After the first savings investigation, you find the client says, great, I say 40 or 100,000. After that, how many years before you do another review?
Okay, what we find is a lot of their clients will ask us back to review other categories after we've done an initial 1 or 2. And then generally most agreements are either a 2 to 3 year cycle, supply cycle or contract of supply. And so we know when your photocopiers, your electricity, your office products are next coming up for review. So we will get on the phone to you and say, hey, look, Don, it's time to have another look at your electricity. If you could just give us the okay and we'll get straight into it for you. But another key point of difference between ourselves and a number of our competitors is that after a 3-month period with either you're an existing provider on new rates or a new supplier, we come through at our cost and complete what we call a compliance review.
Okay.
And that's so that we can assure you that the rates that we've negotiated for you, you're actually being billed for. Because we can't expect our clients' admin staff or account staff or accountants to be reviewing invoices to see what the rate should be compared to various contracts, because some of the categories are very complex. That's part of our service. We'll come through and say, look, this is what was negotiated, this is the savings that we propose that you would achieve, here's your invoices after 2 or 3 months. Pleased to say, Don, you are being billed at the newly negotiated rates.
Well, I think this sort of service is unknown to a lot of consumers. It's not widely advertised. I mean, I only get to know it because I know you, but look, I'm saving that sort of money in a year. I would highly recommend your service to anyone because no saving, no pay. How can you not take up your service?
Exactly. No,
So how do they contact you?
They go to our website, which is www.gabassociates.co.nz, or on the phone 09 909 7221.
Well, Rod, I think that all the customers will ring you, and thank you for coming on the show.
Great. Thank you, Don. Great to be here. Thanks.
And the millionaire's tip for the week. Well, firstly, you got to dress like a millionaire, and you got to talk like a millionaire, and you got to hang around with millionaires. So the challenge for you is to come to my office, give me a call, send me an email, and buy me a coffee, because I know that sometimes you think that Don Ha is unreachable because he doesn't know me and I can't get in touch with him. Therefore, I'm too scared to ring him. If you're too scared to ring me or send me an email, how can you be a millionaire? Remove fear out of your mind. And joining me now is Steve Stark from Don Ha Real Estate. Steve is in charge of our head of project marketing. He's responsible for all the projects nationwide and also Australia. Steve, welcome on the show.
Hi, Don. Thank you for having me.
Look, the audience would love to know what you actually do for Don Ha Real Estate, because we see a lot of these projects come on the market and we sell them, but we can't sell them without the back end. So what do you actually do for Don Ha Real Estate as your part of project marketing?
Well, Don, as you know, our business is composed of a lot of 3-bedroom house sales, and our normal sales team work really hard on that, but you need specialised knowledge to be talking about developments with people, because there's lots of more complicated contracts, for example, and the vendors have got a much longer playing field to run on, if you like, in terms of when they get the property banked and when they're starting. So from our point of view, our task is to work with vendors who are looking for pre-sales very often and try and get them proof in the market that the project is viable, because we've bought them contracts at the right level and they can take that to their bank, they can unfold that, and then we can proceed to the next step and so on. So the level of expertise required from a real estate agent in that area, as you well know, is a lot higher, and it's a focused area that you need to be constantly paying attention to. So our team's well versed in running the contracts. We do seminars a lot, as you know, and that's all about educating buyers that there are opportunities in the market, even though funding might be a little bit tighter right now. We want to be able to supply diversification to investors so they can invest in Auckland, Wellington, Queenstown, Christchurch, the Gold Coast and Sydney, and have different choices around how they can operate as investors.
So what's the process for a developer, say a developer come in with a high-rise in the central CBD or in Manukau, they say, look, I've got 100 units I want to build. I want you guys to achieve pre-sale for you. What's your process from start to finish? What do you advise them marketing-wise and organising staff?
Well, typical examples, we've worked with large hotel chains in New Zealand, for example, and so we've sat down with them at day one and said, okay, well, show us what your thought patterns are, and they'll lay out in front of you and I a series of basically a scheme plan saying this is what I'm proposing to do, and it might have this many apartments, this many terraced houses, or whatever the project is. So the first thing you and I will look at pretty hard is the metre rate they're looking to sell at, because that defines for us what the reality is out in the market from a retail point of view. And we've got to look at mum and dad buying the house, we've got to look at investors buying the house, and we've got to look at speculators buying to make profit and gain. And we've got to reflect all of that in terms of the composition of the people who will buy and settle. So the first thing we have to do is saying, well, is the ceiling price that you're looking at here, say argument, is $1 million in Manukau too high to be looking for an apartment? We might be saying, right now I might be looking at a 2-bed, 2-bath, 8th to 10th story in an apartment building in Manukau. I might be feeling like 670 to 730, depending on the car park, depending on the aspect in the building. We really need to go through all of that stuff and say, is the product fit for the market?
And where's the marketing and media go? Say there's a marketing budget. Where do you spend that money? What media do you target?
We have to, this is a game of continual movement. I've always been of a mind that a buyer needs to see the signals 6 to 7 times before they actually engage and do something. So we've used radio, we do a lot of Facebook stuff, Google ad spend, flyers, because that's direct to mailbox. A lot of people underrate those, but they are a powerful tool. You know, they really are. You're not waiting for somebody to come to the real estate office and pick up a property press. It's in their mailbox, and they're continuing to see the brand.
Well, I see some of the developers, they said, oh, look, we spent 200,000 or 300,000, we achieved 6 sales. Can you mention those guys gave us 200,000 or 300,000, how many sales we achieved for them?
I know the horror story you're talking about, and unfortunately that happens a little bit too often, and it's a shame because it gives project marketers a name they don't deserve. If you get out there and you engage with that kind of money, you should be expecting to see a lot of people through your door.
And we don't take on every project that landed on our feet, do we?
No, and property is a game where there's a lot of money to be made, and we see people come in with hopes and dreams, and sometimes we have to say, look, I'm sorry, we just can't support where you're going with this. It's not going to work in practicality for you. However, we fully encourage them to go and see other people and get other opinions, and more than once they've come back to us after some period of time and they've had a bit of a go in the market with some other strategy, and then we very often end up having to revise the shape and size and price of the product and say, given where the market is now, this is what we see. When you started there, that's what the market looked like. We have to also move with the market too.
I guess the most successful recent one was the hotel in the Wyndham Garden, the apartment in Queenstown. We flew 20 people down, we sold the place out, and we still got people on a waiting list.
That's right.
That was quite that's a perfect example of using the right team with their connections.
That is an exceptional part about what you do, Don, and about how you drive the team in relation to urgency and getting people excited when it's right to be excited about it. And being the first people into that particular product space is where you'll make the money. And getting them on the ground, walking on the ground, just as we've done at, say, places like Point View Estate, getting covered in mud and having a bit of fun, certain people getting their car stuck too many times, stuff like that. That's about engaging the buyers on the ground, and the vendor can see and the buyers can see that we feel it and we're into it and they buy.
Well, look, I think that for any developer from small to medium to large, they should be contact you first, and then I'm more than happy to meet up with them because we got the recipe of success now. We got the template, we know how, so looking forward to see a few more projects coming along.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate your time.
Cheers. Thank you for watching the Don Hire Business Connect show. Until next time, make sure your business is working for you and don't be afraid to take action.